So this is Ben. Ben is the new rig you're going to be using for at least the next exercise and maybe one of the following projects. So let's get to know the rig a little bit. So we have, to begin with, this placement controller. As you'll see, if I drag and select stuff, sometimes I accidentally select the mesh. So one of the first things you'll probably want to do is make sure the mesh layer is frozen, and I'll probably go ahead and just save that as updated just so you have a frozen version of that. So we'll see that we have this main controller here. This is the placement controller for the character. You'll only ever use this to place the character at the beginning of your shot. You never animate this as a way of making the character move. But this is just how you can sort of place the character. You don't really get the option to scale the character with this, but we can at least place the character in a scene using this control. Now, if we want to move the character around, we have a couple of options. First things we're going to do is we're going to consider how the character's hips move. So this is the entire upper body control, meaning if I move this, it will move the entire upper body from the hips up, and that includes the arms. And so if I rotate this around, you'll see that the arms kind of stay within that orientation. If we go a step more inward, you'll see that we have these 4 rings here. And if I grab this first ring, this is going to move the upper body, but watch what happens to the arms when I rotate that. They kind of stay within their own orientation. So this is really just moving the spine. And you'll see that we get a little bit of options to sort of shift the shoulders here and get a little bit of basic bend with this control. In all honesty, this top control is not really going to do very much useful for you, so I would probably just leave it alone. It's bending that top spine joint, but that top spine joint really just controls sort of the angle of the shoulders, and you'll see it's very easy to break that and make the arm go into the side of the body. Now, if you need to adjust the character's clavicles one at a time, we have this option. You can move this around a little bit and get a little bit of clavicle movement. And it's kind of slightly hidden in the body there, but it'll get you a little bit of sliding on that. This upper ring is going to control the shoulder, and you'll see that with that we get a little bit of an option for a stretch if we really need it. Right. This is an FK arm, so that means we're going to be moving everything within rotation. Right. And so we can rotate and pose the character's arm however we need to. And once we get down to the fingers, we have 2 finger controls for this sort of mitten finger. This is going to control the main hand part, and this is the first rotation of that. But if you need to curl the fingers, we get this middle and end joint. That's going to get you a little bit of curl. And we get a little bit of option of a side to side, and we can still sort of rotate that and cup that in. Right. And the thumb is going to work the same way. So we get those options to get any of this rotation we want. So we could have him holding a sword or whatever we need to have him hold there. Now this is moving the arm again in FK. And so what if we decided we needed to move the arm in IK? Well, we have a couple of options. We can select here, and you'll see on this main upper body control, we have the option to switch the arm to FK or IK. So this is the left arm. So I can do an IK switch, and you'll see that now I have the ability to move from the end effector to pose this, and then we have an elbow control to point the elbow. So this is now the interesting thing about that is the upper body. Like, there's a reason I leave it in FK automatically, is because the only time you'll really ever want it in IK is if something is keeping the arm control locked in place. Some people can animate an IK with the arm, but it's a little harder because if I set a keyframe here, move it to here, you'll see that I'm going to automatically, oh, sorry, I didn't set one on the first one apparently. You'll see that it animates in a straight line, not an arc, and so you kind of have to make the arc happen, and it's a little bit harder to do. So it's doable, but you know, I recommend sticking to FK if your arms are just flailing about. Now, if you need to be in FK for a little while and then switch to IK, we have, or vice versa, you'll see that there's this TSMG control that should have loaded with the character. And if you click on that, you'll see we have the FK-IK switch. And if I click that, it's going to automatically switch it and keep the FK in the new position of the arm. Okay, so as opposed to if I just go over here and do an IK switch on the right arm, you'll see that it kind of goes back to the original position of the IK. So this will work if you have any control selected on that arm. FK IK switch, and you'll see it switches to the IK in that new pose. This works with both the arms and the legs are going to be by default in FK. I'm sorry, in IK, and so that way they'll stay locked to the floor. Sorry, that kind of annoys me, so I'm going to put that back in FK. So you'll see that they'll stay kind of locked to the floor, and that's how you want it. Now that's why you don't animate this controller, is because if I want my character to take a step, right, he's going to move forward, but his feet are going to stay in that place. And if I move him forward with this control or this control, that will happen. However, if I try to make the character move forward with this control, his feet are going to go with it, and then I'd have to counter animate his feet to keep them back there, and that's not a very intuitive way of working. So the legs are going to work like any other IK control. We got this to point our knee. We can rotate our foot and our knee kind of goes with it. And you'll see that on the foot control we have quite a few different options here. So we have this heel raise, which will allow us to raise the heel up. This control will also do that as well. So this gives us the option to do a little bit of general wiggling around of the foot. You'll see we also have a heel swivel, and so these are just controls that kind of duplicate that control. There's also the option to wiggle the toe a little bit and to swivel the toe a little bit, and automatically this leg is going to stretch. Okay, so we get it stretching past the point. Now we get this separation because I didn't want the metal to stretch. But overall, this should work pretty well. But if we want the upper leg to stretch or the lower leg, we get some of these options, but that's not very handy, so we probably aren't going to use that very much. And the version you will have will also have this turned on, which means that when we reach the end of our control, it doesn't pop, it kind of eases into stretch. I don't know if it will or not. Actually, I may leave that off because I want it to be able to get completely straight. But you have to watch out for IK pop, which is when your knee kind of feel that pop that happens there. So we're gonna have to watch out for that. But otherwise, that should be everything. There's no real controls for the face because all he has is two eyes that don't really move. But you can still get some expression out of him with just his head, right? Like this may be confused. And so that's kind of the limitation of the character intentionally. So I believe that shows everything. We have an alternative to a spine if you don't like just a simple FK spine, and this will allow you to switch to the alternative spine, which works a little differently. It's more of a move and deform spine, but I don't really recommend this one. And you can see why. It's very easy to break the character with it. So I would probably just go ahead and leave this on an FK spine unless you find a reason that you need it. And on this gizmo, you also get the option to sort of change your controller sizes if you need them to be a little bit bigger or smaller. So hopefully that explains everything. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.